Okay, I'm going to attempt at making a bit of a makeup video for you. I'm doing maternity photos today, so I'll try to make it look good. So I'm starting with the primer. First and foremost, try to wash my face before I do makeup because my face gets a bit oily, and if it is greasy to start off with, my makeup tends to just kind of sweat off. I use a face wash and then I use moisturizer all over your face, eyelids, under eyes. If you all of a sudden find that this primer, the luminescent one, is too glowy and it makes you look sweaty, then I would just avoid putting it in like your sweaty areas, whether that's like your cheeks or your forehead or whatever. I always dampen my sponges, they just make the foundation go on nicer. So I just run it under water a little bit and squeeze out the excess. So it's not dripping or anything, it's just damp. I often just glob some in my center areas and like where it's most red, and then I start like blending it out. And it's best to tap instead of streak like that. It just looks more natural in the end. And then don't forget to go down your neck a little bit, especially if it's not like the perfect color for you. Then I just kind of pull it down a little bit and just blend it, like tap it out. And then the reason also why when I like take the foundation, I like put it kind of on my cheek areas and stuff, is I don't want it too close to my eyes. You want your eyes to only have like a little bit, so whatever's like left on my sponge, that's what I put on my eyes, because I don't want it goopy, because otherwise it tends to like crease more. And make sure you also get in here, in the crease on your nose and under your nose. Just another reminder is going all the way to the edge of your face. It will look kind of obvious if you don't go like right to your hairline. So I'll just use foundation on these pimples because my concealer is never an amazing match. But it's always good to give it at least a few seconds or a minute before like layering your foundation on again. Kind of like paint, you want it to like dry a little bit. The palette with the 4 colors, as you can see, I've used up the neutral shade and the contour like darkest brown color, but this is about when you would go and do your contour. So for me, I always I have a big forehead, so I have to go on my forehead, and I do my cheeks, and then I do a bit on my jawline, and then I go on the other side too. So with your powder, that's when you take this brush, and then you would take the powder and you just kind of like push it onto your forehead if you wanted it a bit darker, and then kind of use it on your cheekbones like that. So I know this looks ridiculous, but and then kind of down your nose. Just make sure to use kind of the pointed side down your nose. And I often, maybe it's the shape of my nose, but I often kind of do a little bit under my nose, a little bit here, and then you can do a little bit on your jawline too. So this video is for your eyes only. Wouldn't hurt to give yourself up to an hour for especially the wedding day or something, because you want to have time to fix things if all of a sudden it's not working. So I don't know if the camera shows it well, but it definitely in this lighting looks a lot better. My face already looks more natural in shape. So that's when I'd kind of go roughly like that on my nose, and then sometimes I just go a bit around my mouth. I might do my forehead a little bit more, especially with pictures. I don't mind if things are a bit darker because it's not very obvious. It doesn't look as obvious in pictures. So the main thing with this one too is just keeping it on the outside of your face. You don't want it like too close inside, like too close to your eyes, or it's nice if it's a little bit lighter here and little bit lighter around your forehead. So just keep it. This is kind of the one that's very much in like the edges and stuff. Go in with bronzer. So then that would be, so if I'm actually like looking at it, it would be the bottom left. So that'd be the bronzer. And I'll just use my other one. And then just for your reference, it's the Sunkissed. If all of a sudden you do end up wanting to get this one. Okay. So with bronzer, then I go over with this angled brush. I think you got one as well. And then I keep it a little bit higher and then just kind of put it up top there. So that would be a little bit above your indent there. And this one I kind of also put a little bit on the edge of my face too, a little bit on my forehead. I do a little bit at the top of my nose. It can help you look a little bit more suntan. So I go in with blush. And yeah, you have that big fluffy brush. And this is mine. It's a little bit angled, but they should do roughly the same job. I often take a lot because it, again, just kind of fades out. The trick is you can also smile and then see where your cheekbones are. And then sometimes I do a little bit up here. And I sometimes do a little bit on my nose as well, just a little bit. That I wouldn't do very much. So that neutral powder, that's what I would put on the areas that it's kind of like raw foundation, like you didn't put anything else on it. So that would be here, especially since I have forehead creases, it just helps. Like the foundation is technically like sticky and that will help it stop being sticky. And then I do under my eyes a little bit. You don't have to do too much there. And then maybe even like a bit down at the bottom. So that's where you just use your neutral one. It honestly doesn't matter where you put it because it's just neutral. So yeah, so that's basically my face. That's probably all I would usually do. Eyeshadow, this is fun stuff. That's how you have your three, my word, can't center myself. Eyeshadow brushes. So you start your way biggest to smallest with the brushes and go lightest to darkest with color. So this is the palette I'll use. So then I find one that's closest to my skin color, which would be this one, or I could, or sorry, not that, that's a glitter. So I don't start with glitter ever. It might depend what you want to do, but I always go for one that's actually like a matte color and close to my skin color. So this one works, or this one works because they're the most neutral. So I will just pick one depending if I want more like, this palette has more warm browns and more cool browns. So maybe for today I'll do warm browns. So then just kind of pat it all over your eyelid. And something to note is I think you have hooded eyelids. So that just means that when your eye is more open like this, I think the top of your eyelid would kind of sit here. So I have this like area here that you can see. You might not have very much here that you'll see. So your eyeshadow almost needs to sit higher than what you think. So I often keep things in the crease, like that line right here. I'll keep things more in the crease. You might, if you have hooded eyelids, which I think you do, then you need to keep it a little bit higher than that, because otherwise you'll close your eyes and then you won't see much. And then because it's a neutral and it just looks pretty much like a skin color, then I also use this under my eyelids. I always get creases right here, and then that helps take that away. And then I go in with a little bit of a darker color like that one. I'm still using the fluffy brush because it's not too much darker. And then this is where you put it in your crease, and you can just kind of swipe it back and forth. And it's okay if it starts off a little dark, it will fade out. Making sure that you go about to, So your eye kind of goes like this between the corner of your eye and your eyebrow. So that's about how far I bring it out. And then I do, with this bit of a lighter color, I will go into the front corner as well. So it's okay to blend this a lot. And you can pay attention to the colors that you're using because you'll use them a little bit on the underside of your eyelids as well. And the more colors you do, the smaller the area. So with the lightest color, you'll do the biggest area. The darker the color, you just go a little bit less, so that it creates like a more of a shadow instead of like your whole eyelid is brown or black or whatever. And then I go in with that medium one, and then I will choose a color that's a little bit darker. So I have, this is like a very orangey brown. That's a bit more of a pink. So that's where I'd pick one of those usually. So I think I'll go a little bit more with an orangey brown today. And then this one I keep basically just in the line, in the crease, I guess. Bring it a little bit more in. But you definitely want to keep it darkest on the outside and not in the inside. So like this, it's darker on the edge. Sometimes if you notice it's not blending perfectly, then you can go back in with your big one and kind of brush them together. And it kind of smooths it out. And don't worry if it's kind of like uneven at first, you just keep blending it and then it will smooth out. And that big fluffy brush is always one to fix that if all of a sudden it's just not blending nicely. So for the most part with these colors, I don't go onto the bottom part here. I keep it all like in the line or a little bit above right now. And I'll add more color onto the bottom part yet. And right now I haven't done any shimmery, glittery eyeshadows. That's my preference, is to do matte colors at first, and then I basically only do shimmer on the inside, which we'll get to in a second. You can go a little bit darker if you want, so maybe I'll do a little bit more. You can even use a couple medium shades, like this is going to be that pinkish color I showed you. So technically I did the brown, like the warm brown, and I did the pink. Okay, and then that's when I go in with that narrow pointed eyeshadow brush, and then I'll go in with my darkest color. So I will probably go with this one because it's a deep brown. You can see my setup in the mirror. So that's when I would basically just put it like on the bottom area here. So underneath the crease and then in the corner of my eyelid. You can put it into the crease a little bit, but not above. And I generally just keep it to the center of my eye, and then that way. I wouldn't go any further for this type of makeup look. And this isn't an amazing blending brush, it just keeps your eyeshadow in a smaller area. So I would basically just use it to put on the eyeshadow, and then I'd use that medium brush to blend it out. If ever you notice that your eyeshadow is going too low, then you can take more foundation or concealer and just kind of keep it a little bit higher, because it will make you look, it'll look sloppy, and it will make you probably look tired or depressed or whatever if it's too much coming down here. Or if you have a certain eyeshadows might flake off and like leave residue. So if it's all of a sudden too low, just take foundation or something. Just to finish it off, that's when I pick a nice glitter color. And sometimes I just quickly wipe off some of that excess dark color from the thin pointed brush, the smallest one. And then I'll just pick a color, like a glitter color that I want in the center there. And that's when I'd put it here underneath your crease from like the corner. You can even do like in the corner of your eye here and then to the middle. I try to find something that's pretty, it's either medium to light for the middle here. If you do something too dark, it's gonna make your eye look kind of funny. If you want to do dark glitter, then I'd keep it on the outside of your eye. Even this one might be a little bit too dark for actually right here in the corner. Usually wipes off pretty easily. So I might take that off the corner there and then go in with the light glitter just for the inside there. So essentially your eye is kind of like an ombre, where it's, the way I generally do the eyeshadow, it's lightest to darkest. And then even like under your crease is lighter here and darker here than above your crease. So that helps. That's basically it for my top eyelids. I'll just quickly get off some of that glitter, and then I'm gonna mimic some of those colors underneath my eyes. So I'll go in with the light. Oh, we actually did this already, so we don't need to do that again. But the absolute lightest neutral eyeshadow. Then you go to your medium that you had used and keep it, this is your pointed brush, keep it right close to your eyelash line. You don't need a ton, it doesn't need to be heavy. And then you just add a little bit more. I wouldn't probably do your darkest color because you don't want your under eyes to look terribly dark. So you basically just need 2, maybe 3 colors underneath, and I don't do glitter underneath. So that's basically it for that. And then I just finish up with eyeliner and mascara and setting spray. So I'll quickly do that. Okay, so I didn't do very thick line today. And then mascara. If you tilt your head back a little bit but keep your eyelids lower, kind of like this, then it's less likely that you'll get mascara on your eyeshadow. And then I always do a little bit, just like a bit of mascara on the bottom. I keep it as close as I can to like your waterline, I guess it's called. Okay, so I did get a bit of mascara on my eyeshadow, but it's not a big deal. I would just say, if you do get mascara or eyeliner on your eyeshadow, give it a minute so that it can dry. If you try to take it off when it's wet, it will just smear. But if you let it dry for 30 seconds to a minute or whatever, then it should almost like flake off, and it should be okay to get off. And you just be very careful. I just use a Q-tip, it's usually the easiest. And if there's any creases, like if you still have white creases underneath here, then I'll just take that Q-tip and like get that out as well. Yeah, and then lipstick. You don't want that. If you ever do lip liner, then Just keep it on the outside. And then you take your actual lipstick and go in the inside. If all of a sudden you notice that your lipstick always keeps getting on your teeth, then you can stick your finger into your mouth and just pull out like that, and it usually gets whatever lipstick was right in the inside. One more thing, that's when I go in with the setting spray, which is most important, I would say, if you find that your makeup seems to always be sticky, or if you want it to last all day. And it's important not to do this when your mascara is wet. You'll close your eyes and it will just schmutz. So 31 minutes, not bad. Okay, hopefully that helps, and just text me if you have questions.